What is going on, guys? Miles here, back again with another video. Today we're going to be looking at all of the patch notes which were released in Black Ops 3 multiplayer, which came with the DLC Eclipse, and it's the version 1.09, I believe. We're going to be going through all the weapons, specialists, and attachments, and all that stuff. And honestly, it's one of the biggest patch notes updates ever, and it's going to take a while to get through this video, but I'm going to go through it all and let you guys know all of the changes made to all the weapons, attachments, and specialists in Black Ops 3. So starting with the submachine guns, the Kuda has had a reduced one-hit kill range in hardcore. Its laser sight bonus is more aligned with bonus received on other SMGs, so its laser sight has been improved slightly, and it has reduced ADS movement but no longer loses speed while firing, which is pretty interesting. Overall a nerf to the Kuda, I would say, which kind of sucks because I'm a huge fan of that gun. But oh well, it was really good anyway. Now for the VMP, it's had reduced ADS movement but no longer loses speed while firing, similarly to the Kuda change, so that's I think a slight nerf really, not like a huge change, but overall I would say that's a bit of a nerf. Now for the Weevil, we have reduced speed reduction whilst firing, and also increased aim down sight speed, increased sprint recovery speed, and increased 5-hit kill range. Now I'm pretty glad to see the Weevil get buffed. It is a pretty underused SMG, but in my opinion it was actually pretty good before the buff, anyway, so I'm quite happy to see it buffed honestly, but it could be really good now. Haven't actually used it much since the patch. Now the Vesper has been buffed a little bit, which is nice to see because I feel like it got nerfed into the ground when it was officially nerfed like a month ago or so. It got destroyed, and now it's a little bit better in my opinion. It's removed the speed reduction while firing, it has increased aim down sight speed, increased sprint recovery speed, and increased ability to control recoil, which is good to see because man, after the nerf, the recoil on that gun was just literally uncontrollable. So I'm glad to see it get buffed honestly, because I didn't really like it when it got nerfed into the ground. Now for the Pharaoh, we have reduced speed reduction whilst firing. That's basically for every SMG, by the way, and also increased aim down sight speed, so a little bit of a buff, nice to see, but in my opinion the Pharaoh is pretty solid anyway, so I don't really need to see it get buffed much at all. Now for the Razorback, we have reduced speed reduction whilst firing, increased 4-hit kill range but reduced 1-hit kill range in hardcore, so a bit of a buff for core game modes, but a bit of a nerf for hardcore game modes with the Razorback. And finally, the HG40 has an increased 3-hit kill damage range. Now I heard the HG40 was pretty weak, so it's good to see that thing get buffed a little bit, although unfortunately I don't actually have it because I never had a weapon from supply drops. But that is all the SMGs. Right, so moving on to the assault rifles. First off, we have the HVK, which has an increased sprint recovery speed and also increased aim stability and recoil stability, so a pretty decent buff for the HVK 30, which I think was needed because it was one of the lesser used assault rifles in the game, so I'm glad to see it get buffed a little bit. Now we have the ICR, which has increased recoil stability, which is pretty ridiculous in my opinion because the ICR was basically a laser anyway, and now it's got even less recoil, so it's basically a laser gun, but I'm a big fan of that weapon. It's pretty fun to use. Now the Sheiva, we have increased aim down sight speed, increased flinch stability, and rapid fire now functions properly, which is pretty interesting. I'm not sure what actually happened with rapid fire before, but I guess it wasn't working or something. And also with the MX Garand, we have increased fire rate and now performs better with rapid fire, which is pretty interesting because I thought that MX Garand was a pretty solid gun anyway, so I'm not really sure why it got buffed, but it's probably going to be insanely good now. Moving on to the shotguns, the KRM has been buffed. It's had an increased 1-hit kill range. The HVK has also been buffed. It's had an increased 3-hit kill range, and the Argus has also been buffed, which has had an increased 1-hit kill range potential when hip firing. So that's pretty mad honestly. The shotguns in this game are pretty damn good already in my opinion, except for the KRM, which was a little bit weak, but the Argus and the Haymaker were actually pretty decent if you use them in the correct ways. So I'm really surprised to see shotguns get buffed. They get buffed in basically every patch, but they never get nerfed, so these shotguns are getting insanely good. But that is the shotguns and assault rifles. So it looks like the LMGs in Black Ops 3 have also been buffed. First off, we have the BRM, which now has an increased aim down sight out speed and also increased recoil stability. The Dingo has had increased tightness of bullet spread whilst aim down sights and also increased hip fire accuracy. So that's increased aim down sights accuracy as well as hip fire, which is pretty interesting. Now moving on to the Gorgon, it now has increased aim down sight speed similarly to the BRM, and it also has increased recoil stability and increased damage through light cover. Now I don't think the Gorgon had a problem with recoil stability when I used it. I've only used it a little bit, so maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't really remember a problem with it. But moving on to the Dredge, we have increased fire rate and increased aim down sight speed, which is pretty mad because in my opinion the Dredge was a pretty amazing LMG anyway, and it's pretty crazy to see it get buffed, and it was pretty underused in multiplayer though, to be fair. But moving on to the attachments, we have the laser sight, which now has increased the accuracy bonus from the laser sight, which is pretty interesting. I didn't really use that attachment on like any guns at all, so maybe it's actually worth using now. And the recon sight has increased recoil stability, as well as the BOA sight, the thermal sight, and the ballistic CPU for snipers. Okay, so finally for the specialists, all of them have had a reduced earn rate in hardpoint, only hardpoint, and apparently Treyarch thought you were earning them too quickly in hardpoint, so now you're not going to be earning specialists as quickly in that game mode. Now the Reaper has had reduced accuracy when unzoomed, and also a reduced ammo count from 120 to 100, which kind of sucks because I swear in like every patch notes the Reaper always gets nerfed, which is really annoying because it's one of my favourite specialists to use in Black Ops 3, but it is still pretty decent in my opinion. Hopefully it's still worth using after this nerf. But the Outrider has increased first raise speed, which I'm not sure what that is, and also increased aim down sight speed, sprint recovery speed, and an increased ammo count from 8 to 10. So pretty big buff to the Outrider overall, which is pretty interesting to see. And the Spectres have reduced leftover power when the Spectre is killed and Ripper is active, which is pretty good in my opinion, because I remember when I was using the Ripper, I would like literally always have that specialist ready to use. So it's good to see it get nerfed slightly, although a lot of people think it's not like worth using already, so a bit controversial there. But Overdrive, Rejack, and Psychosis now have an increased earn rate, whereas Heatwave and Kinetic Armor have a reduced earn rate. So that's pretty good in my opinion, those like changes in the rates. I think that's pretty fair to say. Maybe not like the increased Rejack earn rate, I'm not a huge fan of that, but all the other ones I'd say are pretty well balanced now. So that is the full list of Black Ops 3 patch notes for the weapons, specialists, and attachments. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe for more Black Ops 3 videos. Let me know what you think down in the comments below of all of these changes, and I'll see you guys in my next video.